I'm Eliza Matthews, 32 years old, and despite building a successful career in finance, I've never been good enough for my father. The annual family reunion dinner was approaching, and I dreaded it more than usual this year. I had bought him a luxury car as a peace offering, hoping things would be different. Little did I know that in my purse was a document that would change everything. By the end of the night, I would finally understand why my father never loved me. Before I share my story, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever stood up to someone who refused to see your worth. Trust me, my story might give you the courage you need too. Growing up in an affluent Boston suburb, our family appeared picture-perfect to outsiders, but behind closed doors, things were very different. My father, Richard Matthews, built his real estate development company from moderate beginnings into a multi-million-dollar corporation. He valued success, status, and respect above all else, including family relationships. From my earliest memories, he was never the kind of father who attended school plays or helped with homework. Instead, he was the harsh critic who pointed out my B-plus grades should have been A's, who questioned why I wasn't chosen as team captain, who reminded me that second place was just the first loser. My mother, Caroline, was his opposite in many ways, warm and affectionate when he wasn't around, but she became a different person in his presence, almost shrinking into herself, never contradicting him, never standing up for us kids when his criticism went too far. It was a dynamic I didn't fully understand until I was much older, this strange power he held over her, the way her eyes would dart to him before she answered even simple questions about dinner plans or weekend activities. My siblings and I grew up within this complicated family structure. My older brother James was 3 years my senior and undeniably the golden child. He played football, made the honor roll, dated the right girls from the right families, and eventually followed our father into the real estate business after graduating from father's alma mater. Everything came easily to James, or at least that's how it appeared to me. He seemed to intuitively understand what would please our father, while I constantly guessed wrong. My younger sister Sophia, 2 years behind me, somehow managed to navigate the murky waters of our father's approval system better than I ever could. She wasn't the overachiever that James was, but she had a natural charm and an almost supernatural ability to read the room, to know when to speak and when to fade into the background. She became the family peacemaker, the one who could occasionally make father laugh when his mood darkened, the one who would slip into my room after particularly brutal criticism sessions to assure me that it wasn't as bad as it seemed. But for me, nothing was ever enough. I graduated top of my class in high school, secured a full academic scholarship to Cornell, while father pushed for me to attend his alma mater instead, seeing my choice as a rejection of his legacy. During college, I worked 2 part-time jobs, while maintaining my GPA, yet during breaks he'd question why I wasn't interning at more prestigious companies. After graduation, I refused his half-hearted offer to work at his company, knowing I'd never be seen as anything but a pity hire. Instead, I moved to New York City, with nothing but 2 suitcases and determination, sleeping on a friend's couch while applying to every financial firm I could find. When I finally landed an entry-level position at Goldman Sachs, his response was, "Let's see if you last a month." I did last, not just a month, but 8 years, working my way up without family connections or nepotism, fueled partly by passion but also by a desperate need to prove him wrong. Just last month, I'd received a major promotion to senior investment strategist, becoming the youngest person in the firm's history to hold the position. The salary bump was substantial, allowing me to finally buy my dream apartment in Manhattan and still have savings left over. It was with those savings that I made what I thought would be a grand gesture, purchasing a brand new Mercedes S-Class for my father for Father's Day. In my fantasy, this gift would finally make him see me as successful, as worthy of his approval. The car cost nearly a year's salary, but I convinced myself it would be worth it to finally hear him say he was proud of me. Looking back now, I can see how pathetic that need for validation was, how it had shaped every major decision in my life. My achievements weren't truly for me, but were weapons in an unwinnable war for his affection. When I bought that car, I wasn't just buying a luxury vehicle, I was trying to buy what every child deserves freely, a parent's unconditional love. The annual Matthews family reunion always fell on the last weekend in June, conveniently close to Father's Day. which meant the gathering doubled as a celebration of Richard Matthews's patriarchal status. This year would be no different, except that I had made the decision to finally stand out by purchasing that ridiculously expensive luxury car, a sleek black Mercedes S-Class with all the premium features Father had once mentioned admiring at a country club friend's home. As the date approached, my anxiety spiraled to new heights. I spent 3 weekends shopping for the perfect outfit, something that screamed successful but not trying too hard, feminine but not frivolous, the contradictory mix my father seemed to expect from women in business. I settled on a navy blue, tailored dress from a designer my mother mentioned he respected, with subtle gold jewelry and shoes that were expensive but not flashy. The familiar pattern of preparation felt pathetic, even as I participated in it, the desperate routine of a child still seeking approval at 32. Past reunions flashed through my mind as I packed, each one marked by some form of paternal disappointment. When I was 16 and won the state math competition, he'd questioned why I wasn't focusing more on debate since numbers people are easy to find. When I graduated college summa cum laude, his only comment was that my chosen field was unstable compared to real estate. My first bonus at Goldman resulted in him wondering aloud if finance was really just glorified gambling, and my first promotion led to questions about whether I'd been selected to fill a gender quota. Nothing was ever an achievement on its own merits, always tainted by his skepticism. But this year carried an additional complication, one that had rocked the foundations of my identity just 3 months earlier. A popular genetic testing service, one I'd used out of simple curiosity about my ancestry, had revealed something unexpected. The genetic markers didn't align with being Richard Matthews's biological daughter. After the initial shock and disbelief, I'd quietly pursued a more definitive test, obtaining DNA samples from my father's hairbrush during a brief visit home. The results were conclusive and sat now in a sealed envelope in my purse, a nuclear option I hadn't decided whether to deploy. The discovery explained so much: the lifelong feeling of being an outsider in my own family, the subtle physical differences no one acknowledged, the inexplicable coldness from a man who showed at least basic affection to his other children. I suspected he knew, had always known, and that knowledge had colored every interaction we'd ever had. The day before the reunion, I drove the new Mercedes to my parents' suburban Boston home, having arranged for delivery to a nearby dealership. I'd planned the presentation carefully, arriving mid-afternoon when Mother would be at her garden club meeting, ensuring a private moment for this peace offering. My father answered the door in his usual crisp, business-casual attire, despite it being a Saturday, looking mildly annoyed at the interruption. "Eliza, you're early. The reunion isn't until tomorrow," he said, checking his watch as if I'd missed an appointment. "I know, Dad. I actually brought your Father's Day gift early and wanted to give it to you privately," I explained, heart pounding as I handed him a small box containing the car key with the Mercedes emblem clearly visible. He opened it with the polite, detached manner he reserved for obligatory gifts, his expression shifting to surprise as he recognized the logo. "Is this some kind of joke?" he asked, and I guided him to the front window, where the brand-new car sat gleaming in the driveway. His face registered genuine shock, followed by something almost like pleasure, but it faded quickly to his usual analytical expression. "This is excessive, Eliza. What are you trying to prove?" he asked, though he was already moving toward the front door, key in hand. "Nothing," I lied. "I got a big promotion, and I wanted to do something special for you." He circled the car, twice, examining it like he might a property investment, noting features, asking pointed questions about financing and insurance that felt more like an interrogation than gratitude. After a brief test drive where he commented on the steering being a bit loose despite the car's renowned handling, he parked it in the garage rather than leaving it in the driveway where guests might see it. His thanks were perfunctory, followed immediately by a comment that I must be doing well to waste money like this, effectively cutting the legs out from under my grand gesture. That evening, I called my best friend Taylor from my hotel room, fighting back tears as I recounted the cold reception. "You know what? Forget him," Taylor said with the righteous anger of a friend who'd heard too many similar stories. "Take the car back. He doesn't deserve it." I dismissed the suggestion, still clinging to hope that tomorrow would be different, that in front of others he might show appreciation, might finally see me. "Just promise me you won't show him that test," Taylor warned before hanging up. Not unless you're prepared for nuclear fallout. I promised, but the envelope remained in my purse, a secret weapon I both feared and couldn't quite relinquish. Sunday afternoon arrived with perfect June weather, sunny with a gentle breeze, as if the environment itself was conspiring to create the illusion of the perfect family gathering. I took the long route to my parents' estate, using the drive to rehearse confident responses to the inevitable questions about my personal life, my career trajectory, my lack of a husband or children at the ancient age of 32. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel as I turned onto the familiar maple-lined driveway, already half filled with luxury cars belonging to extended family and my father's business associates, who somehow always made the invite list for supposedly intimate family gatherings. I spotted the Mercedes I'd gifted him prominently displayed near the front entrance rather than in its garage spot from yesterday, strategically positioned where arriving guests couldn't miss it. Taking a deep breath, I smoothed my dress, checked my makeup one final time, and strode toward the imposing front door with the practiced confidence I'd developed in boardrooms filled with men who underestimated me. Mother answered, her face lighting up with genuine warmth as she embraced me, whispering, "You look beautiful, darling," before adding her standard, "Your father's in the back garden with the Peterson group," as if issuing a weather warning. The grand foyer was already crowded with relatives, the usual mix of actual family and my father's carefully curated collection of connections who were treated as honorary members of the Matthews clan. Aunt Linda, mother's sister, approached, immediately with air kisses and rapid-fire questions about my love life, while Uncle George offered a hearty handshake and a booming, "There's our Wall Street wizard," which I knew would irritate my father if within earshot. Cousins, second cousins, and family friends swirled around in predictable patterns. The same conversations repeated annually with minor updates, everyone performing their assigned roles. In the Matthews family theater, my father's entrance was exactly as choreographed as I expected, walking in from the garden with 3 business associates, all laughing at something surely only moderately amusing but treated as hilarious due to the speaker's net worth. His eyes swept the room, acknowledging various guests with nods and brief greetings until landing on me. The flicker of recognition was followed by the briefest tightening of his lips before he nodded exactly as he had to distant relatives and walked toward Mother to murmur something in her ear. No particular greeting for me, his middle child, the daughter who had just gifted him an automobile worth more than most people's annual salaries. I pretended not to notice, engaged in conversation with my cousin Rachel about her medical residency, but the familiar sting of dismissal burned all the same. Mother materialized at my side moments later, touching my arm gently. "Darling, your father mentioned you brought a new car for him. How incredibly generous," she said, her eyes communicating a mixture of gratitude and concern about the extravagance. "Please come say hello to the Stevensons. They just got back from a financial conference in Singapore and would love your insights." This was Mother's way, always running interference, creating social buffers, manufacturing reasons for interactions that should come naturally between family members. James arrived fashionably late, as was his custom, making an entrance with his perfect wife Rebecca and their 2 perfect children, receiving the warm paternal embrace I'd spent decades trying to earn. "Dad, the new car is insane. When did you decide to upgrade?" he asked, and I watched in disbelief as my father clapped him on the shoulder and responded, "Sometimes you need to treat yourself, son. Success has its privileges," with no mention of the gift or my contribution. Sophia intercepted me before I could process this blatant erasure, pulling me into a genuine hug that lingered just long enough to communicate her understanding. "I heard about your promotion." "That's amazing, Liz. Seriously groundbreaking," she whispered, using my childhood nickname that no one else used anymore. Her sincerity was a balm, but the contrast with our father's indifference only highlighted the disparity. As appetizers circulated carried by hired staff, I noticed my father leading a group of his business associates toward the front drive, gesturing animatedly. Through the large bay windows, I could see him showing off the Mercedes, opening doors, pointing out features, his face alive with a pride I'd never seen directed at me. "He's been doing that all morning," Sophia murmured, appearing at my elbow, with a glass of wine that I gratefully accepted. 3 separate tours for different groups of his cronies. "Mother told me you bought it for him." That was incredibly generous, Liz. I sipped the wine, watching as my father settled into the driver's seat, inviting one of his associates to experience the passenger-side luxury. Generosity wasn't my motivation, I admitted quietly. Just once, I wanted him to see me as successful, as worthy of notice. Pathetic, right? Sophia squeezed my arm. Not pathetic. Human. But Liz, you need to understand. She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. Dad will never give you what you're looking for. It's not because you don't deserve it, but because he isn't capable of it. Something in him is broken when it comes to you specifically. Her words hit with surprising force, not because they were new information, but because hearing someone else acknowledge the dynamic I'd experienced my entire life made it suddenly painfully real in a way my private thoughts never had. The weight of the paternity test in my purse seemed to double, the sealed envelope a ticking bomb I both wanted to detonate and desperately hoped to contain. The hour before dinner unfolded with the predictable rhythm of Matthew's family gatherings, everyone migrating to the formal living room with its uncomfortable antique furniture and aggressively tasteful decor selected by Mother, but approved by Father in the only domestic domain where his opinion reigned supreme. I positioned myself strategically on a window seat, slightly removed from the main conversation circle, nursing a second glass of wine and observing the familiar family dynamics.